How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the homestead. Today's the day that we finally finish planting the potatoes as well as plant out our onions. We have 3 different varieties of onions: white, red, and yellow. And I have them divided up into 3 different categories. We got the best of the best, which are inside the bags here. Those are going to go into one of the hills that I've built up. Got second best, which are going to go into a row that I just tilled up and added some compost to, as well as a couple other fertilizers. We're going to consider that a bit of a control test because I just wanted an excuse to grow some more onions in the garden. That's the main reason. But I also wanted to see what it would be like if I didn't bring in all the soil, build those massive hills, because it takes about 3.5 to 4 yards worth of soil per row to build that up. So it's a lot of soil. It costs quite a bit of money, a lot of work. And if I could get away with just putting them straight into the ground, I might as well do that. I also have a couple extras, just a little overflow in case we have some extra room in that extra row that I tilled up. And I'm sure some of you are wondering, why do I have 2 rifles sitting on the table there? That's because unfortunately the gophers have started making their way into the garden, but I did get permission from my neighbor to shoot gophers on their property. Now, I'm not going to be showing any kill shots. I'm not going to be showing any dead animals in this video whatsoever. If you are offended by that, don't worry. And if you are upset that I'm not showing the dead animals on this video, then please unsubscribe and don't watch any of my videos because you are a total psychopath. With that though, we also have these little gopher gassers, as I call them. They basically work like a flare. You strike them, you put them into the hole, and then you bury the hole. I've seen some people online say that these don't work and that they just have gophers coming up everywhere after they use them. What I can say is that you have to make sure that you see a gopher go down into the hole before you gas them, because if you're just sticking these randomly into holes you see in your yard, you're probably not going to have that great of success. For the rifles, we have my CZ457 varmint, very fitting name, with my SIG SR22X, I want to say. 22 suppressor works very well. We're going to be using some subsonic Winchester ammo. If I remember correctly, it's 42 grains, pretty heavy. It is hollow point. It is specifically made for pest control. And then in front there, the beauty that you're looking at is a Winchester Model 74. It's a first-year production. The serial number is below 1400, so it's in the 1300 range. That's in 22 short. It's a semi-auto, and we're going to be using 22 short, subsonic hollow points with that. Just some CCIs that you see there on the table. Both of those should work very well. I'm planning on using the Winchester for a little bit closer shots since it has the open sights, and then the CZ for a little bit further shots because obviously I do have quite a bit of distance. For those of you worrying about a backstop and what's beyond my target, just a bunch of woods, hundreds and hundreds of acres of woods. There are no houses beyond where I'm shooting for literally miles. So I'm not concerned about there being any sort of harm beyond my target. We are 100% safe here, and I want to recommend to you guys, if you are target shooting, if you are hunting, please make sure you know what your backstop is, because I see way too many people in these hunting videos where they're shooting at deer or elk and they're standing on a ridge line and they're shooting at the elk that's on the ridge line. And neither here nor there. That's not in this video, but I just wanted to mention that because it's a little pet peeve of mine. With all that out of the way, I'm going to stop yapping. Let's get out into the garden and start planting. I laid out the rest of the russets as well as all of the huckleberries. I forgot to mention that we have about 8 3/4 pounds of the huckleberries, bringing our total up to 23 pounds of seed potatoes, half in this row, half in that middle row. And you may be able to see that our garlic is starting to sprout up pretty good now. Very happy to see that. Staring at this guy's half of a head, or really third of a head sticking up. Let's see if I can get lucky. Oh, I think I got him. Maybe. Oh, maybe. And for those of you worried about the well-being of the gophers, fear not. I'm about 0 for 10 at this point. Those guys are tricky. They are smart. The minute they see you move, They duck their heads as far down in that hole as they can get, and they just peep out the top. So I'm basically shooting at half a golf ball that's behind a bunch of grass. They're tricky. They're tricky. We're now on to planting the huckleberries, and just look at this guy. That potato wants to be planted right there. That's what I'm talking about. I do want to mention though, the potatoes we planted in the last video, I'm a little worried about them because we did get a really bad cold snap here over the past week. It was pushing temperatures down to, well, about mid-20s actually. It was getting pretty cold in the evening, but I'm hoping the dirt was enough insulation. I'm hoping the potatoes didn't freeze. So if they didn't freeze, we're gonna get an early harvest. If they did freeze, and in a couple weeks, if I don't see any sprouts, I'll just have to go buy some more seed potatoes and replant that row. Obviously, it's not ideal. I would much prefer to use the seed potatoes that I grew myself, but again, because I planted them so early, if the worst happens and all of them died, all of them just froze in that dirt, well, I have more than enough time to go get some more seed potatoes and replant that row, so we should be safe. Planting the last 2 huckleberries went really easy. As you guys can see, what I usually do is I just pull back one side like this towards me, get down as deep as I want to go, and then once I get down to that depth, which is, like I said in that other video, about a foot deep, give or take, I go down, put our potato in, make sure we don't have any rocks right against that because that won't help. Add a little Mycos, fishbone meal, and cover it up. Just like that, really easy. And a little bit of good news, at least in my opinion, depends on what you think of what I'm about to talk about, but we did get 1 gopher. I actually think they're groundhogs technically, but I just call them gophers because they live in the ground, and that's what I call anything that looks like a rat and lives in the ground. So got them pretty damn big too. I mean, this guy was like that big, chunky is the way I would describe him. So happy to get him out of the garden, or at least out of my neighbor's property so that he can't come into my garden. And we still got a couple more running around over there. I've seen 2 others so far. I'm not holding my breath that I'm gonna get them. We're playing it safe. We're taking it slow. I don't want to spook them too much because obviously I need them to be outside of their hole for me to take a shot, or for me to know that they then go into that hole so I could gas them. So I don't want to spook them so that anytime they see me, they just immediately duck down into their hole. That's not my goal. That's part of the reason why I'm using subsonics with my suppressor. Usually, not every time, but usually if I miss that first shot, they'll give me a second opportunity. After that second time though, they usually just immediately duck down into the hole and they're gone for half hour to an hour. So with all that said, we just finished planting all of the potatoes. We planted the Yukon Golds and half the russets in the last video, and we just got done planting the other half of russets and all of the huckleberries. Incredibly happy about that. 23 pounds of seed potatoes in the ground, you guys. I cannot wait to harvest them. And now it's time to start planting the onions. According to the directions that came with the onion sets, I should place them 3 inches apart and roughly 1 inch deep. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run my hand along the entire row about 1 inch deep. I can't be exact with it obviously, but I'm gonna do my best. We're gonna go down and put as much of the 1 pack of Mycos that I have along this row, and that'll be a good experiment too. Does this matter when growing onions? Does it matter when growing potatoes? We shall see. But I'll show where this ends, and then we're gonna set up all the onion sets roughly 3 inches apart, cover them up. Last thing to do after that is mulch over all of these rows with some straw. So we almost made it down the whole row with the Mycos. Now it's time to set up the onion sets. I don't know why I keep saying that. And I'll be planting these going white, red, yellow. That way I'll have a buffer to distinguish which ones are the whites, which ones are the yellows, in case I get confused pulling them out of the ground. putting the last of the yellow onions in this row, and I have all of them in my hand here so that I could kind of go through and pick the best ones, because we're running out of space and I have extras of every type of onion, including this one. So we're putting the best ones in here, and then the extras we're going to be planting in the last row. Man, 6 rows at 45 feet apiece. That is 270 feet of row space. Pretty good if you ask me. Planting out the final row here, and I do want to mention what I've done. So like I said, came through, tilled it up, obviously, took out as many weeds as I could find, and then I added, maybe a 1/4 yard of compost, and I added a little, maybe half a box of the vegetable garden fertilizer and half a box of the all-purpose fertilizer from Down to Earth. Not exactly, of course, I'm just kind of guesstimating, but that's roughly what I put in here. None of the mycos, nothing over the top either. It was very minimal, and then just mixed it all in. So this is going to be like the least amount of effort. You know, you just want to put something in the ground, you want to see if it grows. So you got a little garden space and you're just going to till it up, maybe amend the soil a little bit and put it in the ground. So we'll see how this works. Both the main and the control rows of onions have been planted, and those are all that we have left. Pretty good amount, unfortunately, but we planted 90 feet of onions. No, I did not count how many total, but we have quite a bit. I may even need to come through and thin them out as they start popping up, but we shall see. This is where we're going to end the video, you guys. The sun's setting, and I need to mulch over 3 total rows, plus add some to the 3 rows we already had growing. And that's not very exciting, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share the video with someone you think also might enjoy it, and comment if you have any comments or questions, like always. And while this whole garden's planted and you might think that there's nothing left, we still need to plant tomatoes, peppers, zucchinis. I'm also getting blackberry, raspberry, I think blueberry, and for sure strawberry root starts coming in I think a week and a half, 2 weeks maybe. So that's gonna be really exciting. We're actually gonna set up the original garden, the OG, as a berry plot, just entirely berries. So we shall see how that goes. I'm incredibly excited, you guys. Hopefully you are as well. Like I said, subscribe if you haven't done so already to see all the cool stuff that we have coming. With that, thank you for watching. Think for yourself, shoot straight, and I will see you next time.